Today, we're diving into the silent, microscopic logistics network that is, quite literally, keeping you alive every single second. Capillary exchange. It's one of the most fundamental processes in our bodies, and it's happening right now, trillions and trillions of times over, without you even noticing. So let's start with a basic problem, a huge biological puzzle. You've got trillions of cells, right? And every single one is a tiny factory that needs fuel, it needs oxygen, and it needs to get rid of its waste. So how do you service all of them? It's a massive engineering challenge, but the body's solution? Well, it's just incredibly elegant. And that solution, of course, is our circulatory system. It's this vast, incredible network that connects every cell to the resources it needs. We usually think about the big players, the heart pumping away, the major arteries. But the real action, the important stuff, happens at the smallest, tiniest level. Yeah, think of it like this. The arteries are the massive superhighways, designed to move blood quickly over huge distances. But the capillaries, they're the tiny local streets that branch off and reach every single house in the neighborhood, or in this case, every single cell. This is where the actual deliveries happen, dropping off the good stuff and picking up the trash. Now, here's what's really, really cool. This whole exchange process, it isn't just chaos. It's all governed by a few very simple but very powerful laws of physics. This isn't biology just making up its own rules. This is biology absolutely mastering the fundamental laws of the universe. Okay, so the first and most important rule has a bit of a formal name, Fick's law of diffusion. I know, it sounds complicated, but the idea behind it is something you already get intuitively. Basically, stuff likes to move from where there's a lot of it to where there's not so much, and it'll move faster if there's a huge area to cross it, and a whole lot slower if it has to travel a really long way. Simple, right? And get this, our bodies have engineered capillaries to be the undisputed champions of Fick's law. It's like evolution looked at the formula and said, okay, let's max out every variable. To get a massive surface area, we have an insane number of them everywhere. To keep that concentration difference really steep, blood is always flowing, bringing in fresh supplies and washing away the waste. And to make the diffusion distance as short as possible, capillary walls are ridiculously thin. We're talking just a single cell thick. It's a system that is perfectly optimized for speed and efficiency. So, diffusion explains how all the small molecules, like oxygen and glucose, get around. But what about the fluid itself? The plasma that's carrying everything? Well, that movement is governed by a second, equally elegant mechanism. It's a delicate balancing act between pushing and pulling forces. These are called the Starling forces. And honestly, the best way to picture them is as a constant, microscopic four-way tug of war that's happening over every single drop of fluid in your capillaries. So there are four main players in this little game. You've got two forces trying to push fluid out of the capillary. That's mainly your blood pressure, just physically shoving the fluid out. Then you have two forces trying to pull or push fluid back in. The big one here is caused by proteins in the blood, like albumin, which act kind of like sponges, trying to draw water back in. The final result of this constant tug of war is what determines exactly where the fluid goes. And just to give you a sense of the incredible scale of all this fluid exchange, just think about this number for a second. 25%. That number, 25%, is how much of your heart's total output, all the blood it pumps, goes straight to your kidneys with every single beat. They are filtration powerhouses, and they rely completely on these principles of exchange to clean your entire blood supply. It just goes to show how massive this constant fluid movement really is. So we've got this beautifully balanced system, right? All governed by these simple laws of physics, and it works perfectly until it doesn't. So now, let's take a look at what happens when these delicate balances get thrown off, because this is where so many common diseases actually come from. Let's go back to Fick's law for a moment. Think about the lungs. A disease like emphysema literally destroys those tiny air sacs, which dramatically decreases the surface area for oxygen to get in. On the other hand, something like pulmonary fibrosis causes tissue to get thick and scarred, which increases the distance the oxygen has to travel. See? Two totally different diseases, but both cause serious breathing problems by breaking the exact same fundamental law of physics. And it's the exact same story for those Starling forces. When that delicate four-way tug of war gets thrown out of whack, fluid ends up where it's not supposed to be. And the consequences, well, they can be pretty dramatic. I mean, think about a simple injury, like when you twist your ankle. That injury triggers a release of histamine. This makes your capillaries leaky, which lets those big protein sponges that are normally stuck in your blood to escape out into the tissue. All of a sudden, the pull force outside the capillary gets way stronger, and fluid rushes out to follow those proteins. And the result? Swelling, what doctors call edema. But this kind of imbalance doesn't just happen with a local injury. It can happen across your entire body. A really tragic and extreme example of this is a disease called kwashiorkor, which is caused by severe protein malnutrition.
The symptoms of this disease can be really striking and almost counterintuitive. As the source material points out, the fluid buildup, the edema, can actually hide how much muscle is being lost. This is what leads to that characteristic heartbreaking image of a distended belly alongside very, very thin arms and legs.
So what's actually going on here? Well, it's a devastating chain reaction. Without any protein in the diet, the liver just can't make enough of those albumin sponges for the blood. This causes the blood's main pulling force to just plummet. The tug-of-war becomes totally one-sided. The push from blood pressure is still there, but the pull back in is almost gone. So fluid leaves the capillaries and just stays in the tissues, causing that massive widespread edema. The big picture here, the crucial point, is that this constant, silent, microscopic exchange happening in trillions of spots all over your body isn't just some background process. It is an absolute cornerstone of our health.
So when you zoom all the way out, this whole complex process really just boils down to two simple sets of physical rules. You've got Fick's law, which tells molecules where to go, and you've got the Starling forces, which tell the fluid where to go. And it turns out that disrupting this incredibly delicate balance is at the very heart of everything from a simple swollen ankle to major life-threatening diseases.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? This is just one of countless invisible, perfectly tuned balancing acts happening inside you at this very moment. What other incredible processes are going on under the surface, quietly keeping everything running, keeping you healthy? Thanks for tuning in.